I want to talk about justice, universal justice, and this concept of karma. A lot of people believe that karma exists, and karma, simply put, is this idea that if you're a bad person or you do bad things now, then in the future, that's going to come back and bite you. The universe or whatever is going to come and punish you for doing those bad things. And consequently, if you're a good person or you do good things now, you're going to be rewarded in future. So that's fundamentally what karma is. And even in religions like Buddhism, which believe in reincarnation, and Hinduism as well, karma is expressed through reincarnation. Namely, that if you do good things in this life, then you will build good karma, which rewards you in the next life, enabling you to get close to enlightenment. It's something that a lot of people believe. Even people who don't believe in God often tend to believe in this. They tend to believe that there's some kind of balance in the universe, because that's essentially what karma is. It's saying that the universe balances out the good and the bad. It's a fundamentally human thing. We want to believe that there is justice. It's why we have justice systems in our world, even in authoritarian regimes, right? Even in regimes where you don't have liberal democracies and maybe human rights aren't respected. Even in those regimes, people have a sense of fairness about what's fair. Despite the fact that fundamentally it's very unfair in that society, there's still a sense of fairness in day-to-day life. It's a very human thing, I think. It's part of our evolution. And so we project that fairness onto the universe. So we think the universe is also the same, that the universe cares about whether you're doing something good or bad. And of course, all the religions that have deities in them, the concept of God, absolutely have a concept of justice inside of them. Yeah, it's almost universal, this idea. But I've come to this point in my life where I don't think karma exists. I don't think universal justice exists. Now, I'm not a religious person. I don't believe in God. If I did, obviously I'd believe in it. But as someone who's non-religious, most of my life I did believe these things existed. Like I felt that there was this arc of justice that would eventually hit. If you tell a lie today, eventually it would get revealed, and it would impact your life in some way. If you do something bad today, like you kill tons of people, you'd eventually be punished for this, right? I really believed in this, but these days I don't anymore. Reason is I've had things I've been through in my personal life that have just smashed that idea that people get what they deserve. Sometimes things happen to you. You get in trouble, you get attacked, someone hurts you, and it's not your own fault. You just happen to be there at that time, and they just wanted to hurt somebody. There are so many stories like that. Another thing is the war. For example, Ukraine. I'm thinking of the people who died through, again, no fault of their own. This was just geopolitics that was causing it. Israel and Gaza, October 7th massacre, all those peaceful Israelis who got killed. They didn't personally do anything. They're just living in a larger context, which ended up, having this situation happen. And then, of course, the Palestinians in Gaza now. I mean, what if that little kid, take any of those little kids, what was that? Was that person asking for this? Was it their karma? Were they doing bad things in their previous life? I mean, it's impossible to justify any of this according to karma or any sort of universal justice. And even if people say, okay, well, all these bad things are happening to them today, so that in the future they will be rewarded, or that they will get their own back, or good things will happen to them, and consequently for the attackers, bad things are going to happen to them in the future. I don't think that's how the world works. I really don't. I don't think you actually do get punished just because you do a bunch of bad things. I'm not saying you won't get punished. I just don't think there's a definite link between those two things. You could be somebody who kills millions of people and just stop and ask for forgiveness from the Lord. I don't know, reconcile it in your mind, and then live the rest of your life quite happily and peacefully. Consequently, you could be someone who's lived a very peaceful, happy life, and then one day someone comes and hurts you or kills someone you love, and you can't really explain it. And so these sort of things happen all the time, and we feel it doesn't make sense. We feel that it's not fair. There's no justice, and we're right to feel that. And I think it's because there is no justice in the world. I think if we want to have a just world which is fair, we have to create it. there's no power out there in the universe. There's no force out there that's making sure justice happens. It's really up to us. And in a way, it means the buck stops with us. We are responsible for what happens on this planet and in our own personal lives. So Israel, Gaza, Ukraine, Russia, it's completely up to us. There is no karma that's operating behind the scenes. It's just nonsense. It's just nonsense. It's just something people like to bring up and tell themselves to comfort themselves, to rationalize why bad things happen to good people. But the truth is, bad things happen to good people sometimes just because they do. It's no one's fault. It wasn't the fault of that good person. These things just happen. And what we do after that is completely in our control. And our response to it is what then determines the further future outcomes. And so that's what we should focus on. And I think that's how, at least myself, I want to think about life in future. That really it's down to me, and there's nothing out there to save me. Now, having said this, I've always been interested in spirituality since I was a kid, and I accept that there's more to life than what we can see. I believe there is more to life than what we can see, but I can't yet say what it is. I don't know if it's telekinesis, telepathy, is reincarnation real. I can't really say for sure. I'm more inclined to believe like an atheist, which is that when you die, that's it, and that there is no God, and that the universe is just non-judgmental. It doesn't really care what happens on this planet or with us, right? From the perspective of the universe, we're just atoms. Having said that, there could be something to it, right? They could be a karmic energy. I don't know. So I'm always open-minded to it. I don't want to close myself off completely to the idea, but on the face of it, for now, I don't want to assume that it is there. I want to operate as if I'm going to be responsible for my happiness completely, and if I want to have a good life, I have to create that good life. Karma is not going to save me. Knowing that karma isn't really there does mean that you can question some of the fearful thoughts you have about whether you should say something to one person or do something. Because maybe that thing you want to say or that thing you want to do actually isn't a bad thing. You're just afraid it's a bad thing, and you're afraid you'll be punished in the future through karma. So that's where I find this new mindset, this perspective is really helping me. It's helping me become bolder and braver and speak my mind more without fear of repercussions in the future. So that, in that sense, it's really, really empowering. At the same time, it's telling me that we, this world, are responsible for what we have and the kind of world we create. So yeah, that's why I think it's a good perspective to have, and I think it's a realistic perspective to have in today's times.